Good morning, Denver. This is Nick May with Walls by Design, and you have joined me for Coffee with Nick. I'm going to jump right into it this morning. One of the things I realize a lot of times when I'm talking with homeowners is that there are a lot of problems that homeowners deal with when they hire other painting companies. And so I thought I did a top 10 list. Kind of like the old David Letterman style. We've got 10 problems homeowners face when hiring a painting contractor and how to avoid them. A little spoiler alert, hire us. That's probably what I would say. Number one, first thing is poor communication. So I hear this all the time and I see it. I've experienced it when, contractors come in. There's communication is probably the biggest part of doing anything, any kind of project well. And it comes down to communication on the front end, the planning of the project. It comes down to the execution. It comes down to you have somebody come out and maybe they're a bigger company. They've got a sales team. That salesperson comes out. They make these great promises, right? And then the painters show up and they're like, "What are you talking about? I'm not supposed to paint those things." So you have to make sure that there's a lot of really great communication along the way, and it starts with setting proper expectations, right? I talk to customers. I go in and do estimates, and I really try to find out, what's the situation. Not just be an order taker, right? An order taker is, okay, Nick, I want you to paint, the whole entire house, and they let you go and you go give them a bid on painting the whole entire house. Well, a couple things that I always want to ask is, what's driving this project? Why are you doing this now? Are you moving? Did you just buy the house? Do you have an event, a special event coming up? So we always want to know kind of the why this project is moving forward, and then it's really important to talk budget. It's a lot of times people don't want to talk budget, but really, if you've got a $5,000 budget to paint the entire house, wall, ceiling, and trim, and you live in a 5,000 square foot house, that's unrealistic. That's not going to happen. Now, maybe you can go find somebody off of Craigslist and, roll the dice, and maybe they show up, maybe they don't. I don't know, but it's not a realistic budget for that type of project. So we do like to talk budgets. And in fact, one recent project I had with a customer, I asked her, hey, this is her first house. And I said, do you have a budget in mind that you're trying to stay below? And so she told me the budget. And I believe the budget was like $5,000. And it was a lot to ask because she wanted wall, ceiling, and trim. Now, it wasn't a big house, but we were also on a huge time crunch. Like this was, she had just closed on the house, and of course she wanted to move in right away, and she had movers scheduled. And so we talked about it, and I said, we can split things up. Here's a few things we can leave off. And at the end of the day, I gave her, I gave her the breakdown, and I line itemed a few things out for her to say, hey, if we want to get under that $5,000 budget, here it is. But, here are some other things that you asked me to price out for you. And it did take her over her budget by a little bit. Now, I think we left off one thing. I think the back sunroom porch, the walls didn't get painted, but she did come in slightly over her $5,000 budget. I think it was like $5,600 or something like that. But we talked about it, and I gave her some options, and that's really what I try to do. Okay. Anyways, vague or incomplete estimates. Gosh, if I could change one thing about my industry, it would be that paint contractors would do a better job in communicating and in their contracts, in their written estimate or proposal. I mean, first of all, let's be honest. Some of them don't even give a written. They're just like, $3,000. I can be here Tuesday, But in our proposal, when we send a proposal, most of the time, I would say 98% of the time. There's sometimes I forget to add some of the photos, but in the proposal, I do a written proposal of everything that is included. Sometimes I actually add things that are not included because I don't want ambiguity. So for instance, we're painting all of the trim. But let's say the homeowners are like, hey, the built-ins in the family room don't need to be painted. So I would write that in, built-ins not to be painted. Or I would say, let's say we're not doing the closets and the closet trim. So I would say, don't include the closets. Also, what product specifically, not I'm going to use a high quality, Benjamin Moore paint. No, we say, I'm going to use Benjamin Moore Regal interior paint, or we are going to apply Benjamin Moore Ultra Spec low VOC interior paint. Now, the sheen doesn't matter in the contract, but you get my point. Most people will just, say something because every manufacturer, and I'll be honest, what I mostly go up against is people using Sherwin-Williams, and Sherwin-Williams has, some lower end paints, Promar 400 being one of the lowest. And you compare that to Promar 200. Promar 200 is actually a better paint than Promar 400. I think they did that on purpose to make it sound like it was a better paint. Anyways, that's just my theory. Then they also have like super paint. Super paint's not really fantastic, to be honest. Anyways, those are, but typically, when I've seen estimates, they don't spell out what paint, and that can be the difference of $3, $4, $5, $1,000, and it can also affect how many coats of paint that you need to apply. So, and that leads me to the next thing is that they don't say how many coats they're going to. I found this on the web. Oh my gosh, all sorts of. But they don't say how many coats of paint they're going to apply. That is the biggest deal. Like I'll go up against, folks, and sometimes people will say, "No, Nick, you're twice as much as this other bid. I really like you, but you're twice as much." And I said, "Well, can I take a look at the bid?" And I read the bid, and honestly, they're just going to go and apply one coat. Well, of course, I'm going to be double. They have to make sure that it is and if you don't understand the bid, I think this is a lot of people get embarrassed. They just like, I don't understand. And they don't ask. I always want people to ask. Okay, number 3, cutting corners in surface prep. I hear this one talked about a lot. And there are certain situations that it is key critical on surface prep. And that's in cabinet painting, or that's in taking the trim from stained to painted. Surface prep is huge. In Denver, on walls, surface prep is not a huge thing. We have texture. You probably can't see any of my walls close enough. We have texture in Denver. People have asked me, do you wash the walls? No, we don't wash the walls. In 26 years, I've never washed one wall in a house, and we give a lifetime warranty. And I've never had a customer come back to me from something we painted and said, "Nick, it's failing," and I think it's because you didn't wash the walls. Never. It just doesn't happen. I can talk about some other things. Okay, let's go on. Inconsistent quality and oversight. Okay, what is this? These all came from ChatGPT, if you were wondering. What it said was, you might get a perfect finish in one room and then a mess in the next. That usually means there's no project supervision, or the company is rushing through a job. And so, yeah, I would say inconsistent. Here's the bigger thing that I would say that happens is these larger companies that subcontract out all of their work have a gazillion subs. And you really don't know who's going to show up. Are you getting the A team? Are you getting the C team? Who are you getting? At Walls by Design, we have 4 painters on staff, and then we have sub crews. And I'm very transparent. Most of the time, paint contractors will not talk about the subcontractor thing because it's one of those. I have a video. You can maybe watch it. The dirty little secrets of the painting industry. Most people they want to ignore the fact, or they just want to gloss over. They don't want to tell you when they're subcontracting out. Go to that other video and dive deeper into that. But I am very transparent with our customers. I tell them our painters are, this is going to sound bad. I think of it like I have different tools, right? I have different tools. I go out to my workbench and I have different tools for different jobs, right? I have different painters for different jobs. And so we're going to have the right painter for the right job. For instance, we just recently subcontracted one of our projects out, and the team, because there was a very, very tight timeline, they needed it done immediately and they needed it done fast. One of our sub crews was available. We've worked with them in the past. They're fantastic. And they were able to complete that project in 2 days. Yeah, that was the $5,000 project I was just talking about. But you've got to stop by and you've got to check in on things, and you have to be doing the oversight, right? Making sure that the quality is there. I don't care if you have subcontractors or employees. You still need to make sure that the project is being done according to your standards. So that's a big problem. Lack of proper insurance coverage. This is one of those ones that doesn't come up very often. But if a painter is subcontracting out all of their work, guess what? They most likely do not have workman's comp. Or they may have workman's comp. And here's how workman's comp works. So as a company, I have to pay for workman's comp, and that is based on my payroll. And the insurance company that I have insurance with will ask me for a certificate of insurance from anybody I subcontract to. So the liability, goes over to them. Now, what happens if they're subcontracting? That's where the breakdown, because what happens is, as an owner of a business, I don't have coverage to cover, work that I'm doing. So I don't paint. And that's how a lot of these companies get around, having a lot of overhead. So lack of proper insurance coverage. Okay, no protection for your home or belongings. Okay, literally this morning I'm looking at a video, and this interior designer was showing a video of guys painting in the kitchen, big kitchen, right? And they weren't talking necessarily about painting. She was actually talking about something else. She had put some balloons and taped them or glued them to the ceiling, and so it was because she didn't want to buy helium and put helium balloons for her husband's birthday. So she glues the balloons to the ceiling so they look like they're helium, and then it damages the ceiling anyways. The picture, and I see this all of the time, they're painting the ceiling and they have plastic on all the furniture, but they only have a drop cloth on like one corner of the room. The rest of the hardwoods aren't covered. Honestly, I see this all the time. People, for whatever reason, don't know that we do walls, or they just think our wall bids are a little bit high, and so they hire another painter to paint the walls. And then I'm like walking around while this other company is doing the painting, and they just have a little bit of plastic. They're not covering your stuff. And so what's going to happen is they're going to leave, and then you're going to find all these paint drips somewhere, and they're not going to come back. No warranty or post-project support. Very similar to what I was just talking about. Most companies, because they're small, they may be able to come in right away to get that job done, but then, you find a problem. This, we have a touch-up program. I was at a touch-up appointment yesterday, and she pointed out some problems on the project that didn't get resolved. She's like, Nick, I love the cabinets. We just didn't see this kick plate, when you guys left. But now that you guys left and I'm cleaning the floors, I see you guys missed this. And we're like, all right, we're just going to schedule. I've already sent her dates. I saw her yesterday. Last night I sent her dates. Hey, can you do this the week of the, I don't know what it was, 18th or something. And so we have fantastic follow through. If something happens, we're going to come back and take care of it right away. But most painters don't, honestly. Using unvetted subcontractors. I talked about this already. These bigger companies will have 20, 30, 40 crews. and they don't vet them. And so, your neighbor might have gotten a great crew, but you don't know what crew you're going to get. Delayed schedules, no shows. I hear this all the time. And honestly, it's what led us to do what we call the fries, the ancillary items, because when other people are scheduling their countertops and their backsplash with other contractors, they never hit the dates, they tell me. Never. So we're constantly having to push back. And so I think we have, the last time I checked, and I've talked about this in other videos, we have like a 98% on time schedule record. And that's because we schedule loosely on our schedule. And as you get out 4 and 5 weeks, you got to put buffers in that schedule because people are going to add things. I just know this because I've been doing it for 26 years. All right, no color or product guidance. We send out an interior designer. We are going to make appropriate suggestions for products to use on your house. If you're in the house and you're planning to stay there forever, we're going to use Advance on your trim. If you are getting ready to sell the house, I'm probably going to use either Ultra Spec or Super Hide, lower end products that Benjamin Moore has. Great value. It's going to look great, but it's not going to have quite the finish and the durability that Advance has. We recently bid a project with ScuffX, which is an amazing. Really, it was designed for commercial use, but it has. It's called ScuffX. It will not let scuffs happen on the painted surface. It's crazy. All right, so that was 10. Bonus: hiring inexperienced contractors who don't actually know painting. Okay, this is also something that I would say falls in line with the dirty little secrets of our industry. I was a young painter at one point. I remember when I was in college, that's when I started painting. And I always think back to those years and I think, gosh, I feel bad. I feel bad for those customers that I had because I probably didn't do a fantastic job. I mean, let's just be honest. I didn't know anything. I was constantly going to the paint store, asking questions at the paint store, going, "How do I do this? What do I do?" I ruined houses. I overpressure washed. I did all the things, right? And so when you are hiring a painter and they're like, "Oh, I've just started my business," run. I'm sorry to all the young painters out there, but they're gonna. And I don't care if they go, "Oh, we have 20 years of combined experience," and it's like two guys, and they're like, trying to piece together what sounds good. And honestly, they've painted for 20 years, but they've not owned the business, and that's key. And the other thing that happens is, and I have friends, and I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but there are painters out there that just decided to start painting businesses and pay a marketing company to create some great branding. All they do is subcontract and they don't know painting. They don't. And if they've been in business, now eventually they learn it because they end up having to. But if they've not been in business for 10 years, there's a lot of things they don't know. And you're going to have problems on your. I've been doing this for 26 years. I remember those years when I was making mistakes. You make mistakes on product. You make mistakes on hiring. You make mistakes on scheduling. Just so many mistakes. We've been in business for 26 years. If you own a house that's over $800,000, do not hire an inexperienced painter. You should not be. You're going to have problems. They're not going to do things right. They're not going to stand behind their work most of the time. Now, I was raised right. Like, I have repainted kitchens. I have come in and redone things. I have offered to do more than the customers have asked me for because I want to make sure I do it right. But if you own a house that's over $600,000 or $800,000, do not hire any paint contractor that has been in business for less than 10 years. Unless you just want to have a painful experience, like roll the dice. Anyways, those are the top 10, what did I say? Top 10 problems that homeowners deal with when hiring a paint contractor here in Denver. This is a long video. I'm sorry. Hopefully you got some great information out of it, and we'll see you next time.